How do you bring about real change in an athlete's technique, in their physiology, in the way they move, in the way they apply force? I was recently asked a question on that very subject in regards to how I changed the takeoff angle for Yasemin through a slide that I presented on Instagram and on the YouTube channel. Firstly, you need to identify just what you need to change and then select the appropriate means. Generally speaking, in my experience, one factor won't bring about a complete change. So if we look at Yasemin, at the start of her work with me, her takeoff was very vertical, and that was underpinned by a strong eccentric blocking capability in that she wasn't shifting her weight across the takeoff sufficiently fast enough in order to go horizontally quickly as well as go up vertically as well. I readily identified that she hadn't been doing the right drills in order to achieve the correct takeoff positions and angles. So it was pretty easy from the start to identify exactly what was needed. However, what wasn't easy was for her to connect with the drills in order to then connect with a better takeoff trajectory. Being not used to doing lots of the movements and being able to move the hip in a specific way meant that we really had to start from a position of being behind the starting line, as it were. I'm now going to explain through looking at some of the work that we did, how we made this change, a change that affected her neurally and also physically. Neurally, in terms of being able to connect the muscular movements required to fire the muscles in the required way, and physically in terms of being able to put the power into the body structures so that she could affect the movement proficiently. Now, in my experience, for many athletes, this takes quite some time, depending of course on where they're starting from. But to change something that a person's been doing for a long period can require a patient approach and a structured one at that. So I use, as you'll know if you're a regular channel watcher, lots and lots of drills in order to improve the performance of jumpers and sprinters. I call these jigsaw pieces, and put together they will hopefully solve the long jump or sprint puzzle. I identified that Yasemin was not able to swing her hips in a fluent way, so I had to instruct her on how to swing the hip and move the hip, and she had to learn that movement. Many athletes, when they're learning a new movement, don't realise that they're doing it wrong in the first place. An athlete may think they're getting their hand up to eye level when it's only there, or moving their hip into the takeoff and it's not being held. So video shows that up. They've also got to understand why they need to do that in the first place. Otherwise, they're not going to buy into the changes that you're trying to make. I suppose I should explain why we wanted to make these changes to Yasemin's takeoff in the first place. Well, the dominant variable in terms of velocity at takeoff is the horizontal one. Now you also have a vertical velocity. However, if you go up too much and not across the board quickly enough, then you're going to drop into your landing early and potentially reduce the distance that you're capable of jumping. Pretty obvious if you think about it. If you throw a stone up at a steep angle, it's going to drop quicker. If you throw it at a lower angle, it's going to travel further. If on the long jump board you optimize horizontal velocity and travel across the board quicker, everything being equal, you're going to jump further. Now that takeoff depends on the preceding 3 steps, the swing of the free leg and the torso orientation as well. However, those are subject matters that I'm not going to go into detail with in this video. I'm just going to present a number of drills which Yasemin utilised to improve her takeoff, and as you're also going to see, improve her running. But again, I'm not going to go into detail about that in this particular video. On screen now, you're seeing numerous takeoff drill videos that we've used to improve her takeoff and get that shallower angle. Now, the drills taught her to be able to swing the hip away from the body and to hold it and to make the movement much more punchier. She also was able to get her foot down quicker onto the track in the case of takeoff drills, because she has a tendency to press the foot out in front of her when she takes off, which tilts the body backwards and sends it up more, i.e. increasing vertical velocity. So we needed to get over the feet coming into the takeoff and potentially create a forward lean off of the board, a slight orientation of the torso forwards at takeoff in order to carry more speed across. Now, across the training year, we have begun to get that, but it's not consistent. So again, this is showing you how it takes time to achieve what's needed. What's also important, or I've found, is to integrate the drills and pit work across the whole training year and not do it in a segmented way. Put the takeoff drills into numerous workouts, but connect those up again with numerous jumping sessions at the pit. Now again, if you're familiar with my channel, you'll know that I've got lots of ways to improve the takeoff utilising mats, for example, at the pit. What I'm trying to do in this video is show you the process by which we achieved the change. Now, as I've said, it's taken a while for her to make that change, and it's probably only towards the end of the outdoor season that she got really on top of the takeoff and a better orientation. However, there was still a lot of work to be done, or is a lot of work to be done, on what happens after the takeoff. Going back to this slide, this image, you can see how at the top the angle is much more steeper, and at the bottom it's a lower angle as indicated by the takeoff leg and the drive position from the board, the takeoff drive. That took a lot of time to create. So you need to keep working on the specific movement patterns, the drills, and the reinforcing of the way to do that takeoff over and over again in order to make that subtle change. I want to talk about how taking off at the pit and on the track may not be as transferable to actual jumping with a hitch kick or a hitch hang technique into the sandpit, and that's mainly due to the way the foot is presented on the board when you're doing a takeoff drill, or on the track when you're doing a takeoff drill on the track. There can be a tendency to push the foot out in front of you when you're doing just a takeoff or takeoff drills on the track. Ideally, you want the foot to come back towards your centre of mass as you take off to create more transferable horizontal momentum over the board. So we have tried to mitigate that by doing drills which pull the foot underneath on takeoff to create that greater forward travel. So it's really crucial that you as an athlete or as a coach think it through, identify what drills to use and how to use them. The takeoff drills to the pit on the track will help with hip swing, torso, arm position, etc., but may have a slightly negative effect on the foot plant on the board, or on takeoff, I should say. So we need to wrestle with these factors in order to get the greatest, most positive strategy that's going to create improvement. Well, I hope the information that I provided in this video will give you a greater understanding of how you have to really identify what the cause of a technical issue is, and how you can identify what to do to change it, and also how you need to be very careful in terms of how you implement the changing strategy. If you have any specific questions on this video, or indeed any of my others, then do drop a comment in the section below. We're now rolling into the autumn period at the time of making this video, and it will be time to start the new training year. So look out for some videos on the main channel or in the members area about how to plan training at this most crucial time of the year. If you are interested in becoming a channel member and getting much more deep dive videos and crucially my training plans, then head over to the channel's homepage and click on the membership tab, and you'll be taken through to the coach athlete offering, for example. As usual, good luck with your training and any competitions, should you still have any at this time, and do like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.